Coming up on this episode of Flash Talk, brought to you by Brian Heating and Cooling, we sit down with several members of our Student-Athlete Advisory Committee to learn about what all they do and how they're an advocate for our student-athletes here at Kent State. And we're joined with Assistant Athletic Director Katie Schilling, who heads up the Student-Athlete Advisory Committee. That's all coming up in a flash. I'm joined with Callie Cunningham from our women's soccer team, who's also a member of our Student-Athlete Advisory Committee. So, Callie, first and foremost, thanks for taking some time to join us here today.
Of course. I'm happy for the opportunity.
Well, let's start from the very beginning. Just talk to us a little bit about why Kent State. Why did you choose to become a Golden Flash and play for Coach Marinero and represent this university?
Yeah, I actually I verbally committed here when I was a freshman in high school. So my first visit here with my mom, I absolutely fell in love with the campus and, of course, the coaching staff. Felt like home, and I've stuck with it. I'll be going on my senior year.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your involvement with the Student-Athlete Advisory Committee.
Pretty close with Katie Schilling. I always go to her for a lot of my issues and problems, and she's the best. But Tiana was our representative for SAAC last year, and she thought Delaney and I would be a good fit for soccer. So we started going to the meetings with her last year before she left.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your role within the Student-Athlete Advisory Committee. What all does that committee do, and what is your personal role within that organization?
Yeah, so we meet about once a month, first Tuesday of every month, and kind of just discuss everything that's going on. We go through every team, say if you're in season, what your record is, if you have any games coming up, which ones are home, which ones are away, kind of just what's going on within the whole athletic community. And then we just discuss issues or upcoming events that we can plan.
Well, very cool. Let's go a little bit more in depth in that. We'll obviously use your soccer team as an example. If you have an upcoming game or match, I should say, coming up, what is SAAC going to do to help promote it or raise awareness about maybe an issue you guys are playing for?
Yeah, so it's nice having everyone from each sports team at SAAC, because if we say, hey, we're playing this game for this cause, we need all of your support, you're supposed to go back to your team and say what all happens in SAAC, and most of the time a group message is sent out to your team saying hey, women's soccer needs us, let's go.
Obviously, you're a student athlete. Student comes first here. So the advisory committee also does a lot of professional development when it comes to preparing for life after sport, which is obviously one of the mantras of the department. So talk to us a little bit about some of the planning that goes into whether it be a resume building night or a networking opportunity or some of the other things that you guys do to bring the student athletes together beyond sport.
Yeah, 100%. We do I think it's like a networking night for juniors, and every junior athlete has to attend it. And with your resume, we kind of just went around like round tables with alumni who have different jobs and have graduated from Kent. It was really informational. Got to learn 110% of all the information that I learned, I used in my application and the whole process.
Now, what is your major, and how has kind of some of these networking opportunities benefited you, whether that be just career advice on a resume or maybe leading to an internship? How's that worked out for you?
Yeah, so I'm a psychology major. I'm really not sure what I want to do with my life yet, like most students, but Katie and a lot of the alumni and Curtis, they help tremendously with resumes and getting networking and internships and all that good stuff.
Well, the nice thing about that is if you find an interest in something else, you have a well-rounded enough degree to where you become all of a sudden become very versatile.
Yes, exactly.
Well, Callie, thank you very, very much for a few moments of your time. We'll again thank you for all you do within our Student Athlete Advisory Committee and keeping our staff in line and making sure that we're always looking out for you guys and serving you.
Yes, of course, my pleasure.
Joined with me is Cam Golden, an offensive lineman for our Kent State football team. And Cam, you've got a little bit of a unique story because you didn't start your college career with us here at the Golden Flash. You joined us from Georgia State. So talk to us a little bit about that process and why you ended up becoming a member of the Golden Flash's family.
I was looking for a little bit more of a family aspect when it comes to like not being in a city where like more of like a college city where it's like everybody together. And that's why I ultimately chose Kent State. You know, my visit was a very fun time. I seen a lot of players. We did a pop-up surprise on one of the team, like one of the houses that a lot of our players lived at. And it was just like players just hanging out, and like they didn't know who was coming, but like I seen that aspect of like a unity, and so that's why I ultimately chose Kent State.
I know that one of your teammates, Isaac Vance, was very involved in SAAC. So talk to us a little bit about how you became involved as well and how you became an elected member.
I met with people like Isaac and like Sam and Brad that was also on SAAC committee, and they were just telling me like, hey, like you we're gonna be stepping away, and I feel like you'll be a perfect person for this. You kind of like made yourself known, and so that's kind of how it ended up.
And I know that you've been an inspiration for some of the real world things that our football team does, because you can check us out on social media. You guys really are a driving force behind some of the real world Wednesdays, or trying to figure out some things that maybe people grew up not knowing how to do.
Yes, sir. So like we had one where it was like about dress code, like dressing, and we had including myself, we had a lot of guys on the team that don't know how to tie a tie, and so we took that time to actually learn how to tie a tie, and like learn how to do interviews and stuff like that, how to present yourself when you're in the interview, and how to go out and like get a job and stuff like that.
So talk to us a little bit about just being able to some of the things that you're not normally thinking about that SAAC takes care of. Going, oh, I may not know how to balance a checkbook or how to properly cook a dinner. How do those conversations get started?
It starts with one person. I said earlier, be that voice. You know, it's so many student athletes on campus, and everybody thinks differently. And so when you hear somebody say something, being that voice, be like, hey, like this person say like they struggling with mental health, and so then be like, oh, I'm like, oh, I've struggled with mental health myself, and then somebody on my team also said that. I kind of forgot about that, and then we started looking at different stuff, like, okay, maybe we should do something about that. And so I know like we have something called Morgan Message, and where we talk about like people come, we just talk and they just do stuff like that. Also, when it comes like preparing food, I know we had a conversation where it's like somebody was like, well, I can't eat out every day just because I don't know how to cook myself. And so then we had a guy come in and teach us how to cook, teach us how to meal prep the correct way. Because some people just meal prep and just throw it in the refrigerator and just like don't know how to preserve it, and that food goes bad so fast. And so it's just the little things I'll say is being that voice, because it starts with one. And then like a snowball effect, it just builds up until like something. And so that's how we kind of get the ball rolling.
Just talk to us a little bit about kind of the professional aspect that you guys set up with peer mentorship and resumes and things like that, so, and can help your fellow teammates who are looking for a job after their football playing career.
So I know for a fact we have something called like alumni program, where like I know our juniors did it just recently, where like alumni that played sports here that in certain fields, our juniors fill out a little survey saying like what they want to get into, and then they select certain alumni to come and talk to those individuals about their profession, about what they want to do, and because they in that profession themselves. And so so that's kind of how they talk about, okay, for if you want to be a contractor, this is how you want to set a resume for a contractor. I'm a computer scientist, so once I'm an alumni, I want to hey, this is how a computer science resume, because I can tell you right now, a business resume and a computer science resume is completely different. And so like those type of stuff where it's just like knowing what track you're going to, and it's aligning people that in your track to go hand in hand.
Welcome back inside the GFTV studios. It's Flash Talk, brought to you by Brian Heating and Cooling. Dan Griffin with a very special student-athlete edition of Flash Talk. I'm joined with Sydney Deering from our MAC, regular season champion women's lacrosse team. And Sydney, we've talked with Coach a number of times this season. That's never going to sound old.
Never. We've been saying it over and over again. We've got the trophy up in the locker room. Huge accomplishment for our team that's only 5 years old. So,
well, let's talk a little bit about that before we get into your role as a student athlete and on the student athlete advisory committee. But you, like you said, in 5 years, what a meteoric rise from a program that literally didn't exist to now taking home some hardware.
Yeah, we've had huge record breaks this year, which has been awesome for us. And our alumni, they sent in a little video for our senior day that we just had, our win over Youngstown that secured that for us. And I think Megan Kozar said it best: when a lot of our alumni committed to play here, they were committing to something larger than themselves. So they were really committing to the growth of our program and knowing that they might not be here for the outcome. But, you know, I've been here 2 years, and we grinded through our last season, made it to the tournament for the first time, and now to be regular season champs, it's been huge for us. So we're stoked about that.
But again, it's that experience that it's going to pay, that's continuing to pay off, and obviously that shows with the regular season that you guys had. But let's talk about your exploits away from the lacrosse team. Obviously a leader on the team and selected to be a student athlete advisory committee member. Talk to us about how you got involved in that and your inspiration to become a member of our SAAC squad.
Yeah, we had 2 SAAC reps last year that both graduated, so there were 2 spots open, and I think advocating for equality within sports is huge from a SAAC standpoint, but also women's athletics, especially being a lacrosse team. So that's something that's always been on my agenda. I have my own service projects at home advocating for women's sports, which has been great, teaching that to the younger girls in the community. So wanted to get involved here at Kent State. And as a SAAC rep, it's such a great opportunity to do so. We're led by Schilling, who's fantastic. So yeah, it's been a great experience so far.
Talk a little bit about the change that you're advocating for and that you're being able to make, not only for women's athletes, but student athletes in general within the advisory committee. Obviously, it starts kind of on the, for lack of a better word, local level here at Kent, but then it goes on to the conference, and then obviously out to Division I. So
yeah, we just celebrated 50 years of Title IX, which was great. We had a little celebration for that, and the Judy Devine dinner, the Athletic Academic Scholarship Award, where she's such a patron of women's sports, and that's fantastic to have too. But I think in the SAAC room we talk a lot about how we can make things equal, how we can get marketing and all these other things to feature women's athletes. And we just had our Morgan's Message game, which is a mental health that's driven by Morgan, who passed away. She was a lacrosse player at Duke. So even just bringing in that a mental health aspect of that too is huge for us.
Exactly, and it comes from that safe space, and it also comes from the fact that the vast majority of all of us are going in professions other than sport.
Yeah.
So you guys are preparing for life after sport, and it's really some of the very cool things that you guys are doing to set up the juniors and seniors for success. Talk a little bit about some of the things that you guys are doing to make sure that they walk out of Kent State with a degree and then walk right into a job.
Yeah, we have our peer mentor program. So it'll be alumni from Kent State that our girls can connect with. And we have a girl on our team, when we traveled to California, she was able to meet her pen pal and mentor that she'd never met in person before, who actually lives in California. So we've got Golden Flashes all over the nation.
And Cindy, what is your major? What is kind of the things that SAAC has done for you from a professional standpoint?
Yeah, I'm an integrated health studies major with a health science concentration. I'm on a pre-PA track, so I want to be a pediatric PA. And, I started out on a bio pre-med track and found out that med school might not be the right fit for me. And so, talking with my athletic academic advisors and even some of those peer mentor tutors through SAAC, I've been able to find out that going PA is still an awesome track. So I'm really, really excited for that. But I found connections through where I might want to go to PA school or any of those other things through that mentor program, which is fantastic.
Well, awesome. Keep up the great work. Congratulations on a fantastic regular season. And as always, thank you for a few moments of your time to tell your story.
Thank you.
Dan Griffin here with you for a special Student Athlete Advisory Committee edition. And I'm joined by the lady that runs it all, Associate Athletic Director for Student Athlete Development. That's Katie Schilling. And thank you very much for a few moments of your time. And just talk to us a little bit about what the SAAC committee and your role in kind of leading that group does.
Yeah, so I've been the advisor for SAAC for about 8 years now. And really what SAAC is about, they're the voice of their teams. So we have 2 to 3 members from each team, depending on the sport. So football will have 3 to 4 because they're larger. And what we do is we meet monthly, and they bring in ideas that they see other schools doing. They'll bring in concerns they have within the department. We'll talk about it. We take it back to the respective person in that area and try to, get something out of it. So they take everything we talk about back to their teammates so that they're making sure that they're all on the same page. But when it comes down from a level of NCAA, it'll go to the MAC level, and then we'll come right back down to our level. And they're really our decision makers.
Talk about how those conversations get started, and kind of walk us through the process of either developing a workshop or an initiative that gets started within the department.
Yeah, so I would say a lot of it stems from what they see from other universities. And they bring the idea and say, hey, this has happened. Or, hey, I just saw this on Twitter. Social media is huge, so they see everything that's going on at other schools. So they'll bring it to me. We'll talk about it as a group, and we'll see how many teams it's going to affect. If it's only going to affect one team, that's a side conversation with that team. We need to focus in on what's going to affect all student athletes within the department. And then from there, I'll try it. I'll try everything once. And then from there, we survey the student athletes and we just say, hey, how did you like this? What do you think could change? There's been things that, we don't continue doing each year. The Golden Flashes Gala is something that we've done. We started that 7 years ago. It's been a thing that we've done every year.
And those are two things that the student athletes have talked at length about, because it's a way for them to unwind and just be themselves, away from the classroom, away from the field of play, and like you said, just kind of be them, which often gets lost within their season or within an academic year. But one of the things that everybody's really kind of talked about is something you kind of developed as of late, using your alumni portion of also your title, which needs a billboard more than a business card, I think, at times. And that's the peer mentorship thing, and being able to connect former student athletes or just graduates that say, hey, sports were a really big part of my life as a fan here at Kent State. How can I help these student athletes? And you really have been able to match up and have the conversation going, yeah, this is what a company's going to be looking for. This is how you do a resume. This is how you tie a tie. Like those little things that prepare them and kind of ease that tension a little bit.
Yeah, we have a website called KSU Connect, and that is a space just for our former student athletes and just for our current student athletes. That is where I send student athletes to begin the whole process. Reach out to people who were in your shoes before. They'll help with resumes, they'll help find jobs, and that's the biggest thing is our alumni want to give back. A lot of times you can't give back the way you want to right away, but your knowledge and your success of what you did here is going to help our student athletes.
That's awesome, because I know that our lacrosse team a couple of them got to meet some of their peers that if they've only connected digitally, whether that be via email or just text and conversation back and forth, and now they get to meet face to face, which is a really cool experience. And I know earlier this year I met with a couple of baseball players who were like, hey, we've started this business, we're doing this thing now, how can we get back involved? And then it's a quick conversation with you, and now they're a part of either the networking night or KSU Connect. And it's great that you're helping in so many ways, whether it's just voices to be heard. That's phenomenal to be able to make that incremental change within a department in the university.
Yeah, thanks. That's what it's all about. It's once you leave here, you're still part of the family, you're still part of our Flash family, so we want to incorporate them as much as we can with our student athletes.
Well, Katie, keep up the good work. Thank you so much for a few moments of your time and telling us a little bit, the tip of the iceberg of what all you do for us. And thanks again. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks.
More Flash Talk coming up, brought to you by Brian Heating and Cooling, right after this. Quentin Cook, and a member of the Kent State track and field team, but you are so much more. You're a member of SAAC. You're on the exec committee of SAAC. You're a member of the undergraduate student government as well. You do it all, man.
Yeah, I try to, man. I really do.
So let's talk a little bit about kind of just your role within being a leader within the track and field team. How did that conversation get started with you to even be a representative of your team on the Student Athlete Advisory Committee?
Well, I think that through my upperclassmen that I worked with my freshman and sophomore years, they really just looked at me as somebody that could be a leader for our team and somebody that just knew how to get people involved and knew how to get people really interested in stuff outside of the student athlete body, but also just like somebody that could represent the track scheme as a whole.
You took the SAAC took you. So how does the election process work in order for you to be a member of that exec committee?
You actually have the chance to choose to be on the exec board, and then from there we sort of do a vote to see what position or role that those people could fit into. So I was elected to be the social media chair my sophomore year, and then vice president last year or this year, and then to be determined for this year. We'll see.
Well, very cool. Within your role as for representing the track and field team, and then obviously now on exec, you guys do so much for the voice of the student athlete experience. So talk to us a little bit about how your track and field teammates see you as kind of a confidant, a go-to person.
Oh, I feel like a big thing for us in the track and field world at Kent State, we really, really want to advocate for a new outdoor track, because the track, I don't know if you've seen it, but it's not the prettiest.
Much.
And normally, like, we have conversations about that. Like, people will come to us and discuss, oh, like, I feel like this is something that we really need, and this is why it would also, like, benefit the university. And sometimes that's the conversation that we have. Like,
you also have taken it just beyond the student athletes. You were a member of USG. How did you get involved with student government? Why did you get involved with student government?
So it's funny because, like, if you asked me in high school, if you asked me in college, I would have never wanted to be involved in student government. But my friend Chaslin, she was the president last year, and she felt like it was really important for students' voices to be heard on campus. And she was like, you're involved in Kent State SSP, you're in SAAC. I feel like this would be a great position for you. So she opened it up, and she made it so that I could not only represent students on our campus, but I could also advocate for student athletes specifically through our undergraduate student government. Important.
Is there one instance over in your experience that you're particularly proud of and going, yeah, we made a stand and I provided a perspective that really kind of drove our point home?
I remember having a conversation with Frank Porter in the beginning of the year about having support groups for our diverse groups on campus, and so that comes with like underrepresented communities and also our LGBTQ plus communities, because I feel like that's something in our student athlete world that we don't really get to cover or like talk to about as much, and just having that conversation led way to the groups that we have now, so that I feel like our student athletes can be represented and they actually have a space to have these conversations about what's going on, and if they are seeking support or comfort, they can go and do that.
Well, thank you for getting those conversations started. They're important ones to have, and obviously you're making a big difference both for the university and our student athletes. Quentin, thank you again for a few moments of your time, and as always, keep up the good work.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
We're back with more Flash Talk brought to you by Brian Heating and Cooling right after this. Thanks for watching this episode of Flash Talk brought to you by Brian Heating and Cooling. Join us next week for the season finale of Flash Talk, where we sit down with Athletic Director Randall Richmond to learn about our Play as One campaign and the pillars here at Kent State. For all of us here inside the GFTV studios, this is Dan Griffin saying good night and go Flashes.